Hey, I'm Jeff, Not Dead Yet Adventures, and I've been a nomad for 3 years now. So before I left America, I did what most people do. I went out and bought a bunch of gear that I thought would be great, and I thought would be the shit to have. And so I bought a Apple. I bought this. I don't know what it is. It's a 14-inch Apple, right? I bought an iPhone Pro Max. I bought an iPhone Mini. I want two phones for a lot of reasons, and they all talk together. It all sounds great, right? But it was probably the worst decision I made because, like, just to give you an example, right? No matter what I do now, whenever I go to bed, my iPhone Mini, the battery drains. I can turn it off and it turns itself back on and drains the battery. It doesn't matter what I do. No matter what, at night, the iPhone Mini, if I don't have it plugged into a charger, it goes dead. So if I turn it off, put it in my bag, get on a plane at 8 in the morning, and then I have a layover and this and this and that, and 2 days later I go to turn on my phone, there's no battery, there's no dead. So my laptop, fully charged when I turned it off, shut down, turned it off, put it in the case, right? I carry it in this case right here, this big old hard case, right? Take very good care of it. I baby it, right? So I put it in the case, I'll shut off, and that was, today's Wednesday, so that was Wednesday. That was Wednesday a week ago. And guess what? Battery's at 22%. Why is my battery at 22% for sitting in the case for a week? Case has not been opened since I left. Why? What's it doing? And more importantly, is it's an unreliable piece of travel gear. So mosquitoes attract my attention. There's two in here I've been trying to kill. I haven't found them. But there he is right there. Damn. Missed. Anyways, I'm getting distracted. But the reason iPhones are the same unreliable piece of gear is the same problem, right? Now, I was going out on a trip and I wanted to film on my iPhone and I charged up the battery and I was all excited. I go to pick everything up, run out the door to get on the ferry to Corfu, and guess what? My iPhone is down to like 46% falling fast. And I've got everything shut off. The Wi-Fi is off, the cellular service is off, and I plugged it into a little battery and all day it would never charge above 50%. And I'm using, quality cables, and the problem is it wouldn't be so strange if it didn't charge fast at other times and slow it at other times. And I go through and I turn off all that like green energy BS, right? Same thing happened to my iPhone Pro Max the other day. I know I'm going to be out for a long period of time, so I plug it in. And over the course of 3 hours, again, plugged into solid cables that work all the time, and it says it's charging, but it went from 56% to 58% in about two and a half hours. And that is an unreliable piece of gear. It's trying to do, I don't know what it's trying to do, but I do know I cannot count on it. So I have to carry multiple power banks, and even with multiple power banks, sometimes it's hard to keep a charge on my phone, even with the screen brightness down, even with Wi-Fi off, even with cellular turned off, even in airplane mode. It just drains. And if you think airplane mode and cellular and Wi-Fi off protect you, I can tell you, I was flying over a country and I got a text message when I turned my phone on. I got a text message in another country saying, welcome to this country, and this is what your data plan includes. I was in airplane mode. The cellular service has been turned off, almost the entire time. Wi-Fi was turned off, Bluetooth was turned off, and I'm in airplane mode, and I'm in an airplane flying over a country. And somehow it pinged a tower in that country before I landed on the other side of the next country. And you tell me what emissions were coming out of that phone to catch a signal. I don't know. But I do know that, one of the biggest mistakes I've made about traveling is getting a Macintosh, getting a laptop and the iPhone. And the funny thing is like every update they do, they just get worse and worse. So a lot of times when I'm making a thumbnail for YouTube, right, I'll just very quickly, because I'm kind of a low effort person on YouTube, I'll go and I'll grab a screenshot, excuse me. I'll grab a screenshot, I'll drop some text on it, and I'll throw it up as a thumbnail, right? Just to give you an idea of what is actually going on in the video, right? I'm not a big clickbait. Sometimes I throw a clickbait title, but most of the times I'm not a big clickbait guy, right? It's just like, I'm pretty upfront, direct, and here it is. This is what you get. If you like it, great. If you don't, have a nice day. But even using like the editor in Photos, I have a mini that's, like, I don't know, 5 updates back, because I don't want to update it, because once you update it, it goes from an ambidextrous phone to a left-handed phone. So my Pro Max is a left-handed phone now, and I don't like a left-handed phone. I like a phone that's ambidextrous. And for some reason, Apple doesn't give you the choice anymore. They're just like, screw all you righties in the world, we're going to be a left-handed phone. So using the photo editing in the basic like Photos in Apple on my mini is 10 times better and reliable than on the Pro Max. And the Pro Max is all up to date, unfortunately, right? So the Pro Max, I go in and I go to edit and say I want to change the color of the text. It just shuts down, closes out, gone, right? And you have to go back, open the photo, open edit, and try again. And then I just end up airdropping it to my mini where I can edit it and then airdrop it back to the Pro Max, or airdrop it over to my laptop. And it's like, why can't the editor on the new version work the way the editor on the old version worked, or even reliable? It doesn't even work reliably. And so probably my biggest mistake as a nomad, as an expat, financially specifically, is going with Apple. Now, I'm wearing AirPods, right? AirPods are great. I don't like the ones with the cups, right? I don't like the noise canceling. But even these, I turn off all the noise canceling, all this, all that, and I have to go back in like every so often and turn off the noise canceling. And then the other thing about these that really sucks is sometimes I'll go to turn up the volume, and as soon as I touch the volume meter, it drops to nothing. And so now my volume bar is 50% of the way over, and I'm at 0 sound coming out of these. And then I have to go, and then it never gets above where it was to begin with. So if there's something subtle in the background I'm trying to hear in an audio track, I can't hear it because I can't turn the volume up enough for a short period of time. It decides the max volume. I don't decide the max volume. The AirPods, the Apple iPhone, or the laptop, one of those three is deciding the max volume for me, and it's not really a representation of what I need or want. It's a choice being made by these. So the only real good thing about these is sometimes the music sounds really great, sometimes it's shitty, but they connect easy, right? And they charge easy. But if, my dream is somebody comes in and just disrupts all of this. I would put this in a 3D like scanner, and this, to me, this is like the best AirPod design. And then just put your own guts inside it, and don't have any of that, sensing and all that and noise cancel. Just volume. That's all you need is volume, right? And if you want the little air cups and all the noise canceling and stuff, like, I honestly don't think that's good for your ears. I think it's really bad for your ears. The more I learned about noise canceling, how it works, I don't know, but my impression is it's not good for your hearing, and I don't want it. I just want volume, right? If I need to noise cancel, I'll get some big cans that go over the top, and there's a lot of foam, and it stops all noise. It doesn't cancel it at my eardrum. It stops all noise, right? And, I used to work construction, and I would wear the old school wired headphones, up under the big, like, stop all noise cans. And, I'd sit there and run a jackhammer or whatever I was doing, listening to music with a Walkman, cassette tape Walkman at that. That's how old I am. May not look it, but that's how old I am. So yeah, if you ask me today, tomorrow, next week, next year, what my biggest mistake financially in the whole nomad process was, I would have to say it was going with Apple and Macintosh. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some things about Apple and Macintosh I love, and they're great. But consistently, every upgrade has made things worse. iMovie's gotten consistently harder to use. It's less and less intuitive. And the iPhones, it frustrates me. Nobody believes me until I show them side by side on my 13s that, look, this is a right-handed phone or left-handed phone, and this is an ambidextrous phone. And you look at how the video plays, it's totally different. And there's no good reason I can see, and no good reason anybody's ever explained to me why they did that. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And this camera, I will say, the one thing that drives me crazy is this camera's screens are so fickle. It's like the only thing I don't like about this camera. I'm trying to get it so I can see, because I can't always tell if it's still recording. So I like to see the little red dot. That's why I'm always looking over there, not there, over there, not there. Because I want to see the little red dot, make sure it's recording, because I'm so traumatized by, I shouldn't even say their name. So traumatized by GoPro. GoPro, you think it's recording, an hour later you're like, where's the footage? And, it did a thermal shutdown or did this or did that, and the footage is just gone, or there's no audio, or anyway. So now, force of habit, right? I always look for the red dot. And when the screen goes black and I can't get it to go unblack, it frustrates me. So simple things. But yeah, this whole idea of reliability, right? When I'm traveling, I want things that are reliable, dependable, and predictable. I don't want a hammer that turns into a screwdriver in my bag overnight. I don't want a laptop that, should have a full charge, not have a charge. Because when I open it, after a week, unplugged everything, it should have, at worst, it should be down to 80%, right, from full charge. But 20, I'm going to, in another 5 minutes of using it, I'm going to start getting all these warnings about low bat. And even if I'm going to work through that, it's going to take me more time to cancel out all the warnings about low bat than I'm going to get anything done. You reach a point where you keep getting all these warnings. It's like, okay, well, I'm trying to hurry and get work done before the battery dies, and all you're doing is making that process worse. Like, hello, I can read a battery level indicator on the car. Just want to slap them upside the head, right? Just want to, So I don't know who's working at Apple, but you went from the best to the worst because you're not reliable. And if you want a case study, go look at GoPro. GoPro should be ruling the world right now. Why are they not? Because nobody trusts them. They were too worried on data capture, and nobody trusts GoPro. If you buy a GoPro today, you either have a lot of money and don't care, or you don't care about your footage, or, I don't know of a more unreliable camera system. The cameras from 1812 or 1880, whatever, they were probably more reliable than a GoPro today. Why? Because you knew what it was going to do. GoPros, you never know what it's going to do. Turn it on, it may turn itself off. Turn it on, it may have a dead battery. Turn it on, it may this, it may that, right? Same problem I would have with these Macintosh. You put a full battery in your GoPro, and it's turned off, it's in your bag for 2 days, it's got a dead battery. Why? It's unreliability. I am so over unreliability. I like reliable products. I like predictable products. And Apple, they're failing at both for me today. And unfortunately, if you think this is a one-time and I'm just frustrated over a minute, no, I've got 2-3 years of these frustrations, and when you're trying to do something simple, you pick up your phone and you're trying to do something simple, it should take you 30 seconds. And now you've got to run down whatever problem's going on with your phone, and an hour later, you missed your opportunity to do whatever, right? I've had that happen so many times. That day going to Corfu, I was so mad because the phone wouldn't take a charge, and to film with the cable plugged into the phone was a total encumbrance, and I missed so much footage because I just had to put it in my backpack and let it charge, and I wasn't able to get the flow, and it's a disruption, right? And any disruption to what you're trying to do is never good or healthy. So if you're wondering what my biggest financial mistake about going nomad was, it was going with Apple. I would take lesser quality products that are reliable and do the same thing every time than I would take an Apple. And unfortunately, I'm locked into these for a while until I get back to America. But when I get back to America, a lot in my life is going to change. Banks are going to change. Technology is going to change. And the sad thing is when it comes to form and production, I don't think I think Apple hands down wins the form, right? But it's their software and it's their ideology that ruins it, right? The engineering of the product design. Once they're finally getting away from this flash plug going to USB-C like everybody else finally, right? Hello, but once you get away from those bad decisions, I think the design and functionality, or the design and hardware and technical specs, they're all like off the chart great, but they're getting away from the genesis that made Apple great. 3 clicks to any song. Apple was supposed to be about speed, supposed to be about efficiency, supposed to be about predictability, about it was supposed to be great. Apple was supposed to be great, and it was great for a long time, right? I mean, tell me, your iPod wasn't the best thing in the world, right? But at some point, they lost that ideology, and now they're about, I don't know what they're about. I don't know what Apple's about. Making money, about scamming money. You can tell when a new iPhone is out because your iPhone will stop charging. You know, I don't need tools that are trying to predict what I'm doing. I need tools that are predictable and work so I can use them, right? If you pick up your hammer someday and it says, no, I'm not working today, how frustrating is that? You got to go to the store and buy a new hammer, right? Well, unfortunately, iPhones cost a little more than a hammer. And who wants a tool that is unpredictable? Who wants a tool that is unreliable? So if you plan on depending on these tools, I don't know where to go, because I can't imagine Android's much better at this point because they're always about copying Apple, right? A couple of years behind. So maybe that new I forgot what that phone, but Eric Prince phone, maybe that's a good option. I don't know. I don't know. But I do know the cameras on my iPhones have gotten worse with every update, nearly every update, and the functionality's gotten worse with every update. And I don't know why they would do that. Like, I honestly don't understand the purpose. Like, why would you make an iPhone a left-handed device when it was ambidextrous? Like, what's the point there? Is that just to screw with people? Why are you changing shit? Why? I mean, changing things to be more functional or more, user-friendly, I can appreciate. But there's so many things like iMovie. I was just about to sit down and edit some videos, and iMovie drives me crazy now because a lot of the techniques I used to use, you can no longer use. They just washed them away, and I made the mistake of updating it. And here's the kickers. They won't let me go back to the old version. You let me go back to the version when I bought this laptop, I would probably be a happy camper, right? But now I'm trying to figure out, how do I sell this and buy a new one and then learn new software, and what software do I learn? Are they going to do the same stupid shit Apple's doing? I don't know. But yeah, going back in time, when it comes to cell phones, I would buy 2 or 3 exactly the same, as cheap as I can, just the cheapest phones I can, and I would get 2 or 3. I wouldn't go for the big, one with all the bells and whistles. And I'm not a big eSIM fan. I think eSIMs there's problems with them. I like hard SIMs for a reason, but they don't. The industry is moving away from them, and anytime that industry is moving away from something, it should signal to you an issue, right? Should signal to you an issue. So, yeah, that's what I got. That's my opinion. But yeah, if I were going nomad, I would have a hard time going with Apple just because of the problems I've had with it. And the hard thing, like I said, the engineering, the technology, it's all like top shelf, right? But I know that word will probably, just having that word in this video will probably, trigger the Google people to downplay this video because, stupid's a bad word now. All of a sudden, stupid's a bad word, but, you can say WAP all you want, and all these other, sexually explicit terms, but you say something like, with some legitimate, foundation in reality, Legitimate foundation in reality. Yeah, how did I come up with that? I was struggling for words that weren't profane. That's how I came up with that. Um, but yeah, I'm frustrated. I hope I get the courage to drop this online. Have a great day.